Hi everybody, welcome to class 3 on character. I'm your instructor Mark Battle and this is The Point. I'm going to talk about the warrior code. It's an old Eastern philosophy. It's based upon the Shambhalic tradition of the warrior, which is a code that our indigenous folks have followed, the Knights of the Round Table have followed, the samurais. Any great culture follows the warrior code. Now, I'm talking about the warrior code because as a character in our field, everybody seems to follow a code of ethics. Well, I'm asking people follow a code of honor, something like the warrior code. So what is the warrior code? Well, I'm going to argue that if you can follow the warrior code and do the things within the warrior code, you're exactly going to have the perfect character, the perfect attitude in order to do not only inclusion well, but your work in childcare and also as a decent human being, right? So if you want to know more about the warrior code, look up warrior code Shambhala. Now you figure out how that's spelled. Now, the first thing in the warrior code that I like to focus on is the warrior always makes sure to make this place better today than it was yesterday. So think about that from inclusion, right? We deal with all kinds of stuff that the kids are dealing with. We're trying all these recommendations. Some are going to be successful, some are going to be failures. Doesn't matter, because today's a brand new day. And I'm going to make today better than it was yesterday for you. The second part of the warrior code, which is one of my favorites, is see the good and see the strengths. You're going to hear that through class 2 you hear it in, and you're going to hear it in class 3. But the warrior doesn't see the deficits and sees the faults. The warrior sees the gifts, the strengths in people, and then builds upon those strengths in order to do the right action, do the right means. The third thing that the warrior does is actively builds a community. Not an institution, but a community. And what's the big difference? Well, a community is a place where you live your dreams, not the dreams of other people. That we all recognize each other as being strong. And we all need each other based upon our different strengths and our different skills. The fourth thing in the warrior code is you got to be fearless. You got to take risks. You're going to be put into situations where people are going to scratch their heads and they're going to wonder why you're doing that for that kid. I always tell this story. Well, it was a bad story. I had a kid with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, and I was pushing her on our little trip to the woods in a daycare I was working with at Ajax, Ontario. And as I was pushing her, we get to the top of this area, it's a sidewalk on top of this huge embankment, right? And all the kids, they go, "Can we roll down the hill?" And of course they go roll down the hill, right? Now Sarah, in the wheelchair, she's moving around, going, "Oh." And I could tell something was up because she didn't have verbal communication, but she could communicate in other ways, right? So I said, "Sarah, do you want to go down the hill?" And she nodded. So I grabbed the wheelchair and I ran down the hill halfway and let her go. And off she went, squealing, having a great old time. So I go down and I pick her up. And she gets all stiff and all sort of stubborn that she would do. And I said, "You want one more try?" And she nods. So I took her right back to the top of the hill, got her up there, and decided, you know what, I'm going to push you off right here, give you a good long one. And off she went. Well, I guess I forgot to belt her in. And about the halfway down the hill, the front wheels started to go like this, experienced a speed wobble, and then they came to an abrupt stop, and she went flying out of the wheelchair. Well, everybody thought, "Oh my God, you just killed the disabled kid." And I was a little scared too. So what I did is I ran down the hill and I started clapping my hands going, "Oh my gosh, Sarah, that was an epic crash, epic crash." And all the other kids go, "Oh, that was amazing, epic crash, epic crash." And she cried a little bit, but she was all right. And we tucked her back in the chair and off we went. Well, everything changed that day for Sarah No longer was she ignored in the daycare center because the kids didn't know how to interact with her because she couldn't communicate. She was in a wheelchair. But now she was Sarah, the kid who did the epic crash and survived the epic crash. And everybody wanted to sit with her at lunch. Everybody wanted to sit with her at snack time. And she became the friend to everybody else. Now, do I suggest you do that with kids? No, not at all. But at the end of the day, I started to think about giving Sarah a little bit of a risk like that, dignity of risk like that, rose her, right? So take a chance. Do something unconventional. You got kids in your program right now who no book is going to tell you how to work with them. So that means it's up to you. Take a chance. Have good values on inclusion. Believe that everybody has a right to participate. And whatever you come up with is going to be fantastic. And then the last thing is trust yourself. This is tough work. In inclusion, it's tough work. And you're going to get all kinds of suggestions from all kinds of other people. But at the end of the day, it's you and the job. And so you know this, kid. You got to trust your gut. That whole sort of trusting your gut means that you understand them. You have a feeling about things. And although the whole world might say, maybe you don't do that kind of stuff, you got to trust yourself and give them the best experience possible. Because the best experience possible creates potential. And that is, my friends, the point.